Hello, good evening, and welcome to PM Express. It's Wednesday, and it's Corporate Wednesday. They say hard work never killed anybody. So true. But people believe their benefit packages should be commensurate to how much they put in. This show is for you. Are you turning 60 anytime soon? Well, probably not, but have you paused for a second to reflect on what you will be receiving by way of pension when you turn 60? Are you tracking your money? Why is the management of pension funds an issue in Ghana? How do you feel when you see retirees struggle to access their pensions? These are legitimate money, by the way, after they put in so much by way of hard work. We have just the right man from the regulatory body to do the talking. You stay tuned and then gather all you need to know about your pension. You can join us on the show by text 1760 or post your Facebook comments, frustrations, suggestions on our portals, facebook.com/Joy News. And then if you are active on Twitter, you can send us a tweet at Joy News on TV. My guest tonight is Sam P. Yali, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority. Later on in the show, we'll get onto the phone lines to speak with Franklin Cudjoe, who is Executive Director of Imani Ghana. Imani has a couple of concerns they have been raising about Ghana's pension reforms. We'll address some of these concerns, put them to Mr. Yali, and then we'll carry on with the discussions. We'll also get onto the phone line again to speak with Daniel Adu Mensah, who is a pensions consultant from First. He was the first CEO, I beg your pardon, of MPRA. It's great to have you here on PM Express. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
So tell me, I'm sure many Ghanaians like myself would like to know from a very simple narrative what the current pensions status is in Ghana.
Well, the current pension status in Ghana is that we have commenced the implementation of the three-tier pension scheme. Viewers would recall that until the 1st of January 2010, we had a kind of a monopoly of a scheme, which was a national social security scheme being managed by SNET. Now, there was a reflection about the relevance and in terms of the quantum of benefits that workers or contributors derived from that scheme after they have retired. Besides that, there were also the concerns of many on the delays that pensioners encountered and having to sometimes travel all the way from the north or some other parts of Accra to Ghana to come to Accra to collect their pension. But in all this, what we have and must understand as a basic issue is that pension, the quantum of pension you receive at the end of your working life is a function of the salary you receive now.
Yes.
You know, so that if, for example, you are on a very low salary, it is whatever they deduct is a 17.5% those days of whatever salary you were earning. So, for example, if you are earning 100 cedis, they would exact 17.5% of that, and that is what they would keep for you. Now, many employers are on record to have defaulted in the payment of contributions. So you find a situation where somebody had genuinely worked, believing that his contributions have been collected by the SNIT and kept. But you will find out that that employer may not have paid at all. You also have seen a situation where some Ghanaian workers connived with their employers to prevent SNIT from registering them. And sometimes they themselves understating their salaries.
But why would anybody do this?
Yeah, because they think that the employer is doing them a favor. They hardly believe that that is their lifelong savings they are making. And therefore, I have led a team of inspectors. I worked with SNET for about 36 years. I have gone to several companies where the workers themselves have logged out that they wouldn't allow any SNET members of staff in there for inspection. You understand? And all of this come to the lack of information or lack of understanding of what this whole scheme, pension scheme, does for you as the worker. Today you may be strong, today you may be very active, and you don't think that one day you go on pension, but every day gets you closer to that. We have also had unions, when they are negotiating, they are not interested in negotiating the salaries. They are interested in adding on to the allowances. So you see that somebody's basic salary is very small, but his allowances put together is very big. But you don't deduct social security from those allowances. You deduct social security from the basic salary of the worker. So you find out that somebody will say, I was earning so much money, but my pension is very small. He had simply forgotten the fact that he was out of the union negotiations and others, and they were only padding the allowances. And you know the allowances, the day you go off the payroll, nobody pays you any of those allowances anymore.
Yeah.
So you'll be stuck with your contributions that you have made. And whatever the contributions out of the salary, the 17.5% was.
Now, my point really is that SNET used to have this monopoly, like you rightly said, and then NPRA was set up to.
I'm coming to that.
Reform.
I wanted to give you the philosophy of why people say that pension is low, and what are the reasons why it should be low.
Okay.
And I think that
all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, so with time, it became very obvious that those persons, that employees that have been in the government service, for example, or even in the private sector, around the 70s, some of them were taking 11 CDs and all those in salaries, up to 80, when Ghana's economy was changing. A lot of people were getting higher salaries these days. You find out that somebody who was employed in the 70s upwards, his social security benefit will be very small because of the fact that his salaries then were very, very small. It was after some time that we started talking about minimum wage and others. And even I'm telling you, sir, today, even as of today, there are establishments that are paying less than 550 Ghana cedis a month to their employees. And these are some of the challenges. Now, the best way to go around this is to introduce new schemes that otherwise would complement or enhance the schemes that are already existing. So we started this experiment of privatizing the management of schemes, social security. That is, breaking the monopoly that had otherwise hitherto been enjoyed by SNET. But you see, our reforms is a little bit different from the Nigerian reforms. With Nigeria, they dissolved entirely their basic scheme and then went all private, But in Ghana, Ghanaians are very conservative, and I believe I like that, because with pension funds, that represent somebody's final salary or revenue for him for the rest of his life. At 60, he can no longer go and work anywhere, so he has to depend on the pensions. Now, if we have not been cautious in stating the fact that let us have a basic national social security scheme, that is, if everything fails, that one is guaranteed. That's why we have the basic scheme still being managed by the Social Security and National Insurance Trust. You see, the name itself tells you what it is. A national insurance. That gives you a national insurance as a pensioner. Okay. But for the enhancement and other things that we are talking about, let us break that thing into two. Before it was 17.5%. Now let us enhance the contribution and make it 18.5%. Now, out of the 18.5%, let us put 5% out of the basket from SNET and give it to private trustees to manage. And of course, the 2.5% also goes to the National Health Insurance. So SSNIT will now be left with 11% to manage. Now, it is this 5% that is going to the private sector, that is to be managed by the private sector, which is the basis of the privatization of the management of the pension schemes in Ghana. And therefore, there must be service providers. Who are these service providers? First, we must register as a trustee to be able to manage the scheme. The law says that every scheme on the commencement of the act must be managed by a trustee. So you first and foremost, if you are an individual or a company, you must register that you are a trustee with MPRA. And it's not simply that you come to MPRA, you buy the forms, you fill them, and then since you have got the accurate details there, then that's the end of it. No. For example, if you came or a company came that they wanted to register as a trust company, first, multimedia here can say that we want to register a trust company. We don't want anything to do with multimedia as a broadcaster. We want the multimedia scheme to have multimedia trust or multimedia trustee company. You understand? To separate the pension aspect of it from their normal business. You understand? We also expect that the multimedia trust should have its own ICT infrastructure.
Right, I think we're going to very detailed into the issues. Let's break it down. I'm told we're joined on the phone line by Daniel Adu-Mensah, who is the first CEO of NPRA, is currently a pensions consultant. Good evening, Daniel, and thanks for joining us on PM Express.
Good evening.
Let me quickly ask you, I put that question earlier to, I was going to put that question to Mr. Yale. I guess I'll put it to you. SSNIT used to have monopoly over these pensions, and then NPRA was formed to reform pensions. Yet people are still unhappy. Tell me, why should it be different now?
Well, I think the gentleman was trying to explain, I believe that is from PLA, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yes, we're trying to explain the old system and the new and the new scheme. Well, first of all, like he was saying, there was only the SSNIT scheme, which was managed by SSNIT. And in pensions, what you look for is what is termed as the income replacement rate. That is, when you go on pension, how much does your pension, income compare to the salary you were receiving before pensions? Okay, for example, if you were earning 100 Ghana cedis as your last salary, and in pensions you receive 60 Ghana cedis, it is said that 60% of your income is replaced. So that is the income replacement rate is 60%. Now, before the reform, the SSNIT scheme, which was paying both the lump sum and the monthly pension, had an income replacement rate of about 65%.
Okay.
Now, in a Ghanaian situation, that was grossly inadequate. Because if you're receiving 100 Ghana cedis before retirement, and now you are receiving less, definitely it was going to be inadequate. Now, what the reform seek to do, anyway, by correction, the reform started with the Pensions Commission and then an Implementation Commission, and that created the NPRA.
Okay.
Now, as part of the reform, I think the main charge of the reform was to come out a new pension scheme or schemes that will ensure retirement income security for the Ghanaian worker.
Okay.
That's the overall objective of the pension reform. Now, I was part of the initial, group that reform. The understanding was that in Ghana, what do you determine as retirement income security? And that was the bottom line. Okay. So whether the pension is inadequate or adequate depends on the income replacement rate that you take away. Like I said, it was even about 65%. Now, the World Bank has earlier on come out with some statistics that any country which was paying between 65 and 80%, well, 68% income dependent rate was providing adequate pensions. But what the World Bank overlooked was to look at our social-cultural environment. Okay. For example, the World Bank said 65 to 8% repayment rate was adequate because it was determined that when you go on pensions, certain needs will not arise. Your income needs will reduce. But that is foreign. In our environment, you agree with me that when you go on pensions, your needs rather increases. And that was what informed the reform, that come out with something that will give workers at least 100% of what they were receiving before.
Right, Mr. Edo, I'll cut you in. I mean, you've explained extensively the benefits of these reforms. Let me ask you a pointer question. Are you satisfied with the reform process so far that has been managed by NPRA from the time you were CEO and up to today?
Oh, it depends on the environment at stake. I will say there have been some delays. Maybe as a result of, I'm sure if some people want to go through inadequate funding, etc. But if some will agree with me, I think one of the major problems facing the NPRA is the technical capacity. For me, that is the major problem.
Okay.
Once they could feel that technical capacity, you know, pension is very technical, very, very technical.
Right.
And you need people who are even part of the reform. Okay. It's like a computer programmer without a source code. So if you do not understand the initial thing that were done, it will be difficult to go ahead. The NPRA is trying, but I think that it's some of the major challenges in the NPRA. The technical capacity.
Technical capacity. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So
yeah. It will be
sure.
okay.
So Mr. Edu Mensah, I'll keep you there. We'll still come back to you when in the course of the discussions. We also have on the line Franklin Cudjoe, Executive Director of Imani Ghana. Franklin, good evening. It's always good to have you here on the show. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. I think I'm losing you a bit. But if you can hear me...
I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you clearly. Maybe I could speak a bit louder so you can hear me, if you can hear me.
Okay. Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah, great. So you have issues with the whole reform process. For example, I want to ask you, do you think that this whole three-tier pension scheme will solve all our pension problems?
Well, ordinarily, it should. To be frank with you, the reforms were a very important initiative. I guess that, like every new set of plans, there are problems, there are challenges. The fact of the matter, though, is that we have to be worried if the challenges appear to be perennial and they appear to become perennially double, if I want to put it that way. So you have almost 3 years of reforms, and you haven't seen the nirvana that was promised. And so, ordinarily, I'll say yes, reforms are very much in order, especially when under the original regime, SSNIT had atrociously managed people's funds. And I do not entirely agree with Mr. Sampiali that how much you earn is a function of what you receive at the end of the day. Otherwise, why do you put money in the bank? You know, it shouldn't be the case at all. That's why you put a little away that it will grow.
So what should be the case, Franklin?
What must actually be the case is a clear and a transparent transition, which we really need to have. Unfortunately, there's been, as I said, the challenges have been there, but it's been dogged with a few inconsistencies, and I suppose that those inconsistencies are being worked upon right now, as Mr. Sampiali has been assuring everybody else. But I think that for that transition to be wholly new, the current board of the NPRA must all be fired, in fact, because if you look at the notes, and I've had extensive access to their notes and meeting notes, it's amazing. One of the reasons the reforms haven't kicked in quickly essentially because the board has constituted itself into a management and running the affairs of the NPRA, which essentially means that reforms that should have kicked in 3 years ago are only beginning to birth now. Which is why, Stephen, if you at Joy FM had, for instance, contributed 1,000 Ghana cedis in the last 3 years, you know how much you're going to get? 30 cedis. Now, if you bought a goat, if you bought a sheep, if you bought chicken, I'm sure by now you'd have probably had a farm. Now, to be giving these figures is not the best. And I think that the board, rather than even management, owes Ghanaians a whole lot of explanations. So it's not just being fired, but actually coming to tell us essentially what they promised, that the 5% second tier would be invested at Treasury bill rate. Between that time and now, Treasury bill rates haven't hovered below 3%. In fact, they've not hovered below 10%. But the returns so far have been woefully low, in some respects under 3%. So, as I say, challenges are very much welcome.
Right.
But not when the challenges are beginning to look like the old behemoth that was supposed to be changed. So these are my concerns.
Right. Frankly, I'll hold you and then I'll put some of these concerns to Mr. Yale. Then we'll come back to you later on in the show. So, Mr. Yale, you heard Franklin. Franklin is saying that the returns are wholly inadequate and the board has not done exactly too well. They must be fired. You share these views?
Let me first address the issue raised by my very good friend, Mr. Edu Mensah.
Yeah.
That there are technical incapacities in the NPRA.
Technical, yes.
Now, before Mr. Edu Mensah left, we had him as an actuarist.
Actuaries, yeah.
Him and 2 other members of staff. One of them was a contract staff, a former lawyer, and 2 ladies who were kind of on contract. These were the staff he left. So you can rightfully say that the MPLA lacked technical competence.
Technical capacity.
Because he was the only technical person there. But then I myself joined in with one Dr. Sedo. And
you are an actuarist yourself?
No, I'm a lawyer.
Okay.
But you know that my first degree is in banking and finance.
Okay.
Now my master's degree is in project management, and I'm a lawyer. And what we have done is to try to recruit young actuarists. And now we have 4 of them.
What do they do?
These are people like Mr. Edu Mensah. Mr. Edu Mensah is an actuarist. These are people who can look at figures, data, and tell the health of a scheme.
Okay.
So we now have them. Now, I myself had worked with SSNIT for about 34 years, and I believe that I understand pensions.
Okay.
I do really understand pensions. Pension philosophy is very simple. And unfortunately, in Ghana, no university teaches pension. But pension philosophy is very simple. Put something down, let somebody invest, and at your retirement, there's an replacement, like Edu Mensah explained. Now, before Mr. Edu Mensah left, we did not have any office that the MPRA was housed. It was housed in the offices of the head of civil service with about 4 or 5 rooms, and everybody was lumped in there. So you could not even recruit anybody. Before Mr. Edu Mensah left, we did not even have a salary structure so that you can use the salary structure to attract younger people, smarter people like you. I myself, when I joined MPRA, for the first part of the year, I wasn't paid a pesewa. 6 months, I wasn't paid any cedi.
You were doing pro bono service?
Yeah, because we were always anticipating that the salary structure will be fixed so that we can move on. Until it was 6 months later.
So now there is a salary structure?
Yes, I've been able to get a salary structure. I've been able to get our establishments approved. You understand what I'm saying? Because before you get a government to pay your salaries, because now we are not generating any money, you have to secure an establishment. I have got an establishment for 63 people. And these 63 people are not just clerks and administrators. These are people with competencies, IT and the rest. So if you come to our new office, which is opposite Accra High School, you will see an office. That is, we have moved from the head of civil service building. Now we have got a rented premises which we are occupying. And then we have recruited some very, very smart young men.
Right.
Now, I am coming,
Yeah.
please. These are issues have been raised, thrown out
Which
there.
you need to.
I need to really address them.
Okay.
Now, coming to my friend Franklin Kujo.
Franklin Kujo.
Now, he has always had a beef with the board or some management or whatever it is. But up to the time that we really set off to take over the management of the place, it has been the Pension Reform Commission, you understand, which migrated into the MPRA. The authority did not have staff. They did not even have a structure. So it was only the board that was meeting almost on a daily basis to fashion out some of the regulations and other things.
So the board, like he said, became the managers.
At that time, because there was no chief executive, Mr. Dimension himself was a consultant. It was at the tail end of it that they kind of designated him as the chief executive. You should understand. But we have passed through all these phases. When I joined the MPRA, we had only 3 guidelines. Now we have done about 18 guidelines. When I joined the NPRA, no scheme had been registered. But now I can give you the statistics, which is, they say figures never lie. Now we have registered 15 master trust occupational schemes and given 18 of them provisional licenses. Now, because of the guidelines we have really put in place, very stringent ones, if you don't qualify totally, you cannot be given a full license. You'll be given a provisional license. Aside of that, since joining in, we have registered 45. Totally, we have registered 104 schemes and 61 provisional licenses. Since I joined in there, and my brother, when Dr. Sedel left a year ago, Dr. Sedel left 2 years ago, I have been hanging in there. I was a deputy chief executive, deputy chief executive. Dr. Sedel went away, and I was asked to act as the chief executive. Since that time to this time, there has not been any replacement of a deputy or even the appointment of a chief executive. So I've been hanging in there with this young team, a young group of people I put in there. And we have achieved so much.
So you're making great progress.
I am telling you that if during the discussions, I'll tell you how much we have made. Franklin also talked about the woeful interest end.
Yeah.
I keep talking to my friend that he has got some figures wrong. You understand me? Now, the arrangement was that until the schemes were registered to manage the schemes and appointing their custodians to receive the contributions, we should use the SSNIT framework, the SSNIT offices, because MPRA does not have any office in Sevioso. MPRA does not have any office in Tamale. There's no scheme or trustee appointed. Meanwhile, workers' contributions are also flowing every month. So what do? Between the deep blue sea and the devil, let's take the situation where employers to continue to pay their social security contribution as though SSNIT was the, so the SSNIT will still collect from their 49 branch offices. But at the point, they would have to separate what should go to SSNIT, what should go to NPRA, what should go to National Health Insurance. So they do this reconciliation and then put what should have gone to the trustees, to the temporary pension fund account, what we call the TPFA, held by no other bank than the Bank of Ghana. You understand?
Okay.
So at the end of every month, SSNIT will go using their machinery, collect all the monies, and we don't pay any money on that to SSNIT. So when SSNIT collects the money, then they would disburse this to us, the health insurance, and also do their investment. On our own, as soon as we receive notification from SSNIT that they have paid any money into the temporary fund account, we have a standing agreement with them. Invest immediately. On maturity, reinvest. So the issue of somebody investing the monies outside the treasury bill doesn't come in.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, Chief, this reform started 2010, and we had issued a statement based on which Franklin is doing that. We designated that as a provisional statement because, one, the data that had been given us was very incomplete. At that time, the Controller and Accountant General government had not also structured in the way that they could pay the contributions by regularly. And if you don't match contribution reports with the amount of money received, it's like your salary going to the bank and they don't know your bank account. So it created a problem. We needed to sort all these things out. When we have done this beautifully, I'm inviting Frank and my brother Edu Mensah to our offices, and they would open our ICT and they will see what we are doing.
Okay, so Mr. Yale, we'll take a short break, and then when we return, we'll break down the issues and systematically address some of the petty issues that our audience will bring to the table. So I'll put the questions to Mr. Yale. My name is Stephen Anti. Stay with us. Welcome back to PM Express. You can send us your comments, suggestions, frustrations, and all of it by text 1760. Post them on our Facebook wall, facebook.com/Joy News. And if you're active on Twitter, you can send us a tweet. Our handle is @JoyNews on TV. So I have some messages coming in. Citizens Mandela Douglas says that it's very sad to see the pensioners struggling for their basic needs. I don't know whether it's poor planning or they think they will die before 60. And then Nana Asem Stephen says, life after 60 is not easy, so man must think twice. And citizen Mandela Douglas again says, interestingly, a teacher who taught for 39 years received 8,000 as his pension benefit. Why? When the youth are on strike, those headmasters seem not to be in favor. Their meager pension money awaits them. And then Togwiga Kokuvi Wemega says, yes, it is true that hard work never kills, but my brother, it kills to do hard work. How can one kill himself for the job he or she seriously does, and then later he is denied entitlement and also cheated if all payments are done? I reckon that you're saying that if all your payments from your pensions are done before you go on pensions. Our greedy politicians and self-seeking individuals are to be blamed for this situation. And then George Bonsu says, well, ECG Wahala. I'm sorry, we're not discussing ECG. And then this one, Alukus, says that the pension scheme must be revamped and revitalized to suit changing trends and the times that our pensioners are suffering too much at this age. And then this one doesn't have a name. You say that how do the workers at SSNIT live in terms of salary and remuneration? Judgment will tell on all who make workers weep after retirement. Let's go back on the phone lines. We still have Franklin Kujo and Daniel Edu Mensah there. So Franklin, you heard some of the responses from Mr. Yale, that your evaluation of the challenges facing the pension administration sometimes is devoid of the true facts, that you're perhaps not well informed about the real issues on the ground. Your reactions to that?
Well, first of all, this discussion we've had back and forth, and I noticed Mr. Sampiele and I have had extensive discussions. But you see, the matter is just that I do not understand that you keep your money in the bank, and the bank will promise you, we want to give you your returns in piecemeal. The day banking becomes that way, I'm sure that will be the end of history. So I do not understand that for pensions, it ought to be different. We are living with a clear and present danger, and I think that it is important that these challenges are flagged right from the beginning.
Do you want to react to that?
I do not understand that. I do not understand that a board can be in perpetual, should I say, perpetually be in. What's the word? Continuously, they are not. They wouldn't find a way of getting themselves out of the way in terms of money.
But frankly, what's the norm in other countries with investing pensions?
Well, Stephen, look, in some countries like Chile, which is obviously the best reference point, 10% of that country's savings is actually comes from pensions.
Did you say Chile?
Chile.
Chile, yes.
Chile, okay.
10%, yes. And the pioneer is called Jose Piñera. Now, there's been a lot, many countries, even in the States, pension funds have been used to develop economies. For Nigeria, is even getting it right as we speak. So it beats our mind that we can get close to 2 billion, in fact, 2 billion Ghana cedis by our calculations from pensions alone every year, and we don't see the need to use it. Look at the way the SSNIT itself is managing people's funds. Look at XTC, which has gone under, a state-owned that has gone under because of bad management. Quarter pence, SSNIT wakes up and goes to salvage it, gives it close to $2 million. Is that how to use your own money, assuming it was yours? You hear all kinds of investments SSNIT have been involved in, and you shut up and think that the best form of, or the best way to use our monies under the new reforms is to also use it for development infrastructure.
Right, frankly, I'll give Mr. Yale a chance to react to some of the things you raised before we continue. Yeah. So, Mr. Yale.
Franklin, quite frankly, I and Franklin have been agreeing on a lot of these things. I told Franklin once upon a time, it was a radio goal that I gave a certain figure, but at that time, it was just the investment we had made, because I didn't want to disclose it because it's not for public consumption. Now, I also had told Franklin on a number of occasions that he should look at the period of the statement that we issued. The statement terminated from 2010 January to July 2011. So it was not a full hog of the investment, because that was the data available to us. So I told Franklin that he should not depend on that. Now, again, there are various reasons why we saw, that there were a little bit of discrepancies on the statement. First and foremost, on the interest. You see that the law itself allows a legal lag of 14 days. You see, a legal lag of 14 days. That is, if at the end of January, the employer can pay by the 14th of February. Now, so if you have an investment, and the interest rate is 25%, the 25% is for 365 days. Now, so if you deduct the 14 days from the 365, already there's a short change. Now, if you look at the cycle, where SSNIT collects the money, does the reconciliation, and then before we do, there will be some time lags. And these are the loopholes we are trying to seal, because we want to eliminate the lags, that as soon as the money hit the account, it is invested, so that the worker is not affected. I've tried to explain this several times on many platforms to my brother and friend Franklin, and I'm always, again, inviting him to my office so that we can sit down and look at the issues. We can better discuss these things when you have information, I have the information, we cross-check the information, and then we finish and settle it once and for all. Because sometimes I feel a bit sad that after explaining these things over and over again, then it is thrown into the public as if nothing is happening, or there's some disaster.
Your point is that a lot is happening, which Imani and other civil society groups are not abreast with.
I am inviting them again, Franklin. Today, I'm inviting you again tomorrow to my office. I'm inviting Mr. Edu-Mensah so that he can come and see the changes that are taking place in the MPRA.
Mr. Edu-Mensah, if you're still there,
Franklin himself, I've invited him several times. We have met at the World Bank, where we have agreed that we needed to share information. And after giving him the information, he moved from his goat farming business to the fact that a lot of things have to be done. So I think let us focus on the things that are positive. Because you see, once we create such panic to the pensioner, you see, his psychological tunes his mind that something is not going right. But as far as I know, and I keep assuring the people of Ghana, with the records that I have, with the guidelines that we have established, with the regulations that we have put in place, now we have registered the scheme. You know what our next effort is? We are going to the monitoring and supervision of the schemes. You see, if, for example, I'm sitting there, and then somebody comes and buys a form for 1,500 cedis, that's all he has paid. And then he qualifies to be a trustee because he qualifies on paper. I will not just start giving that person money. I need to take, the law says that I should do fit and proper test.
Right.
I would go to the bank of the person, the former bankers of the person. I would also go to the court, whether the person is a bankrupt. I will also go to the BNI. I'll go to CID to find out about the caliber of people who have to be
So you're doing all
I have
these
done all
checks.
that.
So let me go back to the lines. Daniel Edu-Mensah, if you're there, we've not spoken to you for a while. When you hear all this back and forth, the position of civil society groups and the explanations that the MPRA is giving, does it worry you? Does it make you feel that there is a bleak future for pension investments in Ghana?
No, even before Mr. Edu-Mensah comes in, since November, the trustees that have been registered have commenced collecting contributions and investing. So I don't see, I mean, the initial delay because we didn't even have a structure, the initial delay because we didn't even have a system.
They've all been overcome.
They have all been overcome. And trustees are now collecting contributions regularly from employers since November. My duty now is to go back to the field and see whether they are doing it in accordance with the law. So that's where I am.
So Mr. Edu-Mensah, do you share the same enthusiasm with Mr. Yali?
You see, I get very worried.
Hello,
I
Mr. Yeah.
I was acting CEO at MPRA once. I'm now a consultant
Okay.
for pensions. And the feedback I get is very, very worrying, especially from our clients. And let me just
Can you first
PLA.
share some of the feedback, negative feedback, so perhaps Mr. Yali can.
I do get any feedback, but let me just get back to some PLA.
Okay.
You see, the point that he made, that they come in, they've recruited actuaries and all these things. You don't just have to be an actuary to understand these pensions. Okay. You must be an experienced actuary who understands the pension reform in Ghana.
Not necessarily.
So what they should do to train the people that they are recruiting very well, maybe get experienced people, because most of the time there are a lot of inconsistencies coming from the MPRA. And that is what worries me.
No.
Okay.
See, Mr. Edu-Mensah, excuse me, please hold it there.
Yes.
You are a private consultant. You have once been the chief executive, and we are very good friends. So if somebody comes to you with a concern, and as a consultant, you want to find a solution for him, why don't you take a phone and call me and say, Sam, this is the concern. And in fact, since Mr. Edu-Mensah left, we have never discussed any such concern. Some of these concerns may be ordinary manufactured concerns.
Mr. Sampiale.
Papa, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, all this time that I've left the MPRA,
yes, sir.
I've refused to participate in any of the debate. You understand me?
Yes, my brother.
So I'm giving you, I think we should talk, I'm giving you the verity of the situation because of what you said. You see, the fact that you are recruiting actuaries does not solve the point. That's the point I'm trying to make to you. And again, maybe the initial mistake that we all made was that we were too quick at getting people out of the place. You see, it may be certain people have been asked to help with the reform who could have gone further and better than what we are doing now.
Like yourself.
And I'm still trying to.
Mr. Edu, like yourself, I mean,
we need to train our boys very well. We need to look at the laws very well.
Mr. Edu, I was asking a counter question, Mr. Edu. I was asking, you made reference to the fact that if certain people were asked to or made to stay on and help, and I'm asking whether you're making reference to people like yourself to be made to stay on and help with the necessary transitions.
Well, you see, for some of us, we paid our dues. Honestly, we paid our dues, and we were still prepared to help, at least with the technical side, because I still insist that insofar as the NPS is able to fix the technical problem, it's not recruiting staff. It's just getting the right people there to help them with whatever they are doing.
Okay.
You see, so not only me, Edu-Mensah, there are people who are involved with the reform itself. So sometimes it's good to go back and find out, why certain things were done. That's the point I'm making.
Yes, but you see, let me react quickly to this.
That.
The fact of the matter is that there was a reform committee It was not a commission. Dr. Bediako himself, who was the chairman of the committee, has been a member of the board all this while. Are you following what I'm saying? Now, the delays or the perceived technical incompetencies were not because people didn't understand the issues. The delay was the fact that we have structural problems of accommodation. We did not have a structure to recruit people. Now, definitely, if you recruit anybody, you have to train the person. Are you following what I'm saying? And I am saying that after recruiting these people, we have taken them through what needs to be known, and they are working on that. Unless my brother can write to me, because he's a consultant, or my brother can come to my office and say, look, these are the technical incompetencies that we see. But the Act itself allows me and the board to recruit any consultant that we think should be useful to the system. Now, we are even in negotiations with SECO, the Swiss company, Swiss embassy, to send us some consultants. But my point is that, no, instead of bringing outsiders, let's use our local consultants, like people like Mr. Dumensa. You see, I don't want to, we are on air, I don't want to talk about so many things, because this is the second time somebody has raised that about competencies. Now, you could be an actuarist, but an experienced one, fine, I agree. But where do we get experience? We get experience from practice. And I am very competent that with the exposure we are giving to our young actuaries. I mean, we have the director of regulations, who is the president of the Ghana Actuary Society, who's a member. Unless he's doubting the man's competency. But so far, out of the work that we have done, we have registered the schemes, we have registered the trustees, we have done everything. So I'll be very happy, Mr. Dumensa, quite frankly, if you can, as a consultant, or as a person who has participated and want to see the system move forward, you would list the concerns people have given you and let us share it.
Right. Mr. Edumensa, I would like us to wrap up with you.
Yes.
Now, tell me, you started speaking about negative feedback. Give me 3 or 4 or 5 negative feedbacks quickly, and then run us through what you would recommend the solution to be. Then we'll wrap with you.
You see, like I told you, I've intentionally avoided being on this type of program.
So you are not willing to share the negative feedback?
Because I was there, I'm out of things. So whatever you tend to say will appear as if it's sour grapes. No, it's not.
Okay.
I'm not going to list anything now. But frankly, in a certain day, there has been a lot of reports and concerns from outside, and I'm sure that the MPR itself has received most of these concerns. So, okay.
Right.
I feel advise that let us get time and train the people very well.
So
because you see, what I didn't want to accept is the fact that you have come and recruited actuaries means that it's fixed. No. There are senior actuaries in this country, but sometimes they even consult. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Yes, there are senior actuaries in this country, but sometimes they consult those who are involved with them.
Right, so Mr. Edu, you're just saying effectively that there should be an effective and efficient regime of training these new recruits. And Mr. Yale has said that is exactly what they're doing.
Boss, I, myself, know that I'm not an actuarist. What I've put in place for me is adequate. I have put a committee. Are you listening to me? A committee. I mean, Dr. Osei Akoto, I'm sorry I'm mentioning his name. He's a stallion, a perfect actuarist. And I invite them, look at the issues, we discuss it. That is broader consultation. I didn't know my brother was just on the touchline. I knew that he was doing a consultancy. I knew that he was into so many things. But then if he had even hinted me that I could consult him, I would have done that 24 hours. Edu, you have not been fair with me. Edu, you have not been fair with me.
So we still have Franklin Cudjoe.
So
Franklin,
if you have the concerns,
if you are there,
and you don't
Franklin,
get me the concerns, how do we resolve them?
Franklin, can you hear me, Franklin Cudjoe?
Yes,
yeah, good. So we've heard the back and forth, really, from Mr. Yale and Mr. Edumensa, who have both been in the helm of affairs with the MPRA. Now, to wrap up with you, tell me what you would recommend? Let's say 3 or 4 steps which you think as a country and the NPRA and everybody we should begin to do in order to bring sanity to the pension issues in Ghana.
Well, first of all, I'm going to obviously accept Mr. Sampiele's invitation.
This is not the first time I've invited you.
But you see, the thing is this: as a public agency, you ought to be doing a lot more public education. Now, the thing I really would love to see is a situation where the NPRA publishes its work, entire work, an audit of the 3 years that they have been operating for everybody else to see. And that would be a very significant part for all of us to charge. Then we would have confidence. Even after that, the second thing that ought to be done is the corporate trustees we also need to shine light on the activities, because we don't want a situation where corporate trustees will start behaving like mini fiefdoms and then shortchange everybody else. So those will be my concerns.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. Sure. Thank you very much, Franklin, for joining us on PM Express. So, Mr.
You see, I also have detected a certain phenomenon. Some of our service providers, when they come to our office and they don't have it easy with us, then they seek outside interventions. Because if I say you should bring a report, I really mean that you should bring the report. If you think that you don't want to bring that report, then you are not my trustee. Are you following me? Then they would make all manner of, take all issues. I will be very happy. In fact, tomorrow I would invite Franklin Cudjoe officially.
Right.
I also write to Mr. Du Mensah for the list of concerns that has gone to him that needs to be addressed.
Of the media, you can
we can address this.
Now, I have specific concerns that are coming in from, and we have been actually lifting the discussion from the average concerns that people have, like pensions are not being paid. I'm not able to locate somebody who was supposed to pay my pension and didn't pay. Some of these issues we need to start addressing. So I'll put some to you. This person is KS Bar from Tamale, says SSNIT has not paid pensioners for the month of March. Why? Is that correct?
For the month, we are in March.
Yes.
And SSNIT will pay pensioners at the end of the month.
At the end of the month.
Yeah.
So the person should wait.
Yeah. Sometimes we confuse so many issues with pensions. For all you know, the person is even referring to the captative being paid by the Accountant General, and it costs SSNIT. That's why I'm grateful to this session. I thought that we were going to be an education. If I didn't know the format of this I thought that we were going to be education. That's why I brought all these documents. But I think I will seek a proper forum where we can educate people about these things. Now, you want to read that so that I can give you what we are doing now?
Yeah, I mean, I asked some issues. For example, this person said, I was pensioned for 2010. Till date, SSNIT do not pay me benefits. What should I do?
Now, if the person is listening to me, he should tell you where he is. What did it
this one didn't say where he is, but he just said that he was pensioned in 2010.
He should go to the nearest. He should go to the nearest SSNIT office, and then when he goes there, he should call this number 020 2020 161 and give me a feedback of what happened there.
Okay.
Because so many reasons account for these delays. For example, if they check your records and it is ... no contributions have been recorded. You see the problem? Because the employer may not have paid the contribution. They would then call you to come and take a form, go to your employer to give you a contribution list. And there are reasons why it delays. So let us look at that.
Okay,
but I've given this number out. Anybody who has a problem with his pension, I'm the regulator, let him get to me.
020-2020-161. So, you heard Mr. Yale. If you have any issues with your pensions, you can reach the number 020-2020-161. And this one says, when is the lump sum collected? So far, when is the lump sum collected so far going to be released to avert further poor investment returns? Does this question
lump sum
strike you as...
No, see,
I mean, when is the lump sum collected so far going to be released
No.
to
The
avert
person is-
further poor investment returns?
no. The person is not talking about lump sum. Lump sum means that when you are going retirement, before then, SNIT system, they will calculate a percentage, about 25%, and then give you the money, what the accounts, it is kind of then the rest will be spread over your entire life. You see, my brother, some explanation will have to be done. When you retire at 60, we expect that you live up to about 80 years. Don't forget that every month you have an annuity of payment. You have a stream of payment.
What does that mean? Annuity of payment?
Every month they pay you.
Yeah.
You understand?
Okay.
So if you just quantify and say that, oh, because they gave me 8,000 when I was going retirement, without having to add the number of years or months
That
that
you
you are
have
going
to
to
live.
live, then you are not being fair to the system. Because assuming that they give you under 80,000 cedis now, you may receive more than 80,000 as long as you live. That's what you call, it's
At the
called
end
a
of the
pension.
day.
You see, that's what the SNIT is good for. But unlike this, the second tier, that will be paid lump sum. You understand? And sometimes a certain type of annuity attached. So I agree with Franklin Cudjoe that a lot of education has to be done. But Franklin, come to my office, I will give you 2 years audited account of the MPRA. I will give it to you. You know, as for me, I don't have anything to hide. The MPRA's account has been audited 2 times. Now, what we are doing currently is that now schemes have been registered. They are operating. We have asked the trustees to say, for example, if you say Joy FM Multimedia is your client on your scheme, give us the number of workers that are on that scheme. Give us their social security numbers and give us evidence of payment that Multimedia has indeed paid. Are you getting what I'm saying? Now, if you say that maybe, let me use one of Franklin Cudjoe Trust, says that they have 40 establishments on their scheme. Franklin Cudjoe is being expected now. We have asked them, we have written to them to give us the list of establishments or companies that are on that scheme. For each company, give us the number of workers on that. For each worker, let us know his social security number. For each or the collective of the workers, let us know or have evidence of payment. Because if you have not paid your contribution and you, the trustee, have just gone around collecting names of establishment, thinking that you are having a big scheme, you may be flying a feather. So we have asked them to bring us these details. It is when we have this, then we can do the reconciliation of the TPFA, and that is the Temporary Pension Fund account, then do the auditing to be sure that every PESWA that is the account belongs to somebody. All the interests have been accounted for.
Mr. Ali, this one is interesting from Baleto.
No, I thought that I was completing this statement.
Yeah, okay.
So that
Sorry.
we then do the disbursement out of the Temporary Pension Fund account to the trustees, because we are assured of the members of the scheme. And we are assured that people indeed have paid. So that is the stage we are now.
Okay. Now, I was going to read this. This person says, I worked with GIST Limited in GIST Limited in 1996 to 1997. They refused to pay my SNIT contributions and they refuse to pick my call. Help me locate them. Such a person.
Where is GIST?
The person has to know where it is.
Yes. GIST, first, if I know the ER number, the establishment registration number, I can ask SNIT to give me the details of this organization. For all you know, it's a small company, attempted to register people on the scheme, but never paid anything. You understand? We have many of such
So
cases.
some companies actually defraud people by this. Is it fraud?
For me, if I'm a worker, you collect my, you deduct
And
my
you don't
contribution,
pay.
and you
You
don't pay.
tell
You are
me you've
defrauding
paid.
me.
Yeah.
You are cheating me at the end of my life. So I would have to. You see, that's why I always advise workers to be interested in their pension.
What about pensions for soldiers?
Oh, the Constitution does not allow soldiers to have to be included as pensioner.
That's very interesting.
Yes.
So what happens to soldiers?
Oh, they have their own scheme, because they are, the colonial, we said that their life, their work is risky, so they have their own scheme. But,
I see.
But for the police, prisons, fire service, and the rest of them, that is what the law says that we should do a unification. And this year we are doing that.
Okay. Another one says, please, I want to know why underground workers who go on pension at the age of 55 do not enjoy their full benefits. This is from Osei Obuasi. I really actually don't understand what he means by underground workers.
Osei, the impression is wrong. You see, you are supposed to retire at 60 years. But if you are a miner, not an ordinary miner, an underground miner, because of the hazard of your job,
okay, now I understand.
We reduce your age to 55 so that
I see.
You act as though you are 60 years.
I see.
But your benefits are the same.
I see. So this he's referring to miners.
Underground miners.
Underground miners. Yeah. So it doesn't really matter. Your retirement age will be reduced to 55.
Because of the hazard that we think that's...
All right. So I'll say I hope you got a better understanding. And then Jifa said, was SSNIT asked to pay contributors portion of the lump sum paid up to 2010 to PURC? If no, are we not being shortchanged?
The reforms took effect 1st January 2010. You understand? So from 2010 is when the reforms take effect. So all activity transactions that took place before 2010 was SSNIT, But of course, we have some transitional arrangements where, if you look at Section 94D, we have a certain formula to calculate the people's past credit. For example, if you have worked for the past 20 years, we should be able to calculate your past credit. And whether we port that, when we say port, transfer that past credit to your new scheme is another matter. But there's a formula, there's a transitional arrangement that we we have.
Okay. And then finally, before we let go of you, this person says that let MPRA address the issue of those on CAP 30. What is their stand now?
CAP 30 is a very interesting animal. You see, when the white men were here, in order to retain black workers, graduates, they had this scheme which was non-contributory. And it was your salary multiplied by the number of years you had worked with them. So if you were a young man and you entered the civil service, you are attracted by the capacity to stay on and on and on.
I see.
The same like the university superannuation scheme and the judiciary. So it was kind of an attraction to retain them. But remember, it was not contributory. The employee doesn't contribute anything.
I see.
At the end of the month, the government will have to look at
find the money.
Find the money and pay these things. And it has been very handsome. Sometimes you find out that those who are on the CAP 30 may be earning more than those who are on the Social Security. And the irony is that those who are on the Social Security are rather contributing.
For the CAP 30 people to enjoy.
And the CAP 30 people, they don't contribute anything, but it's bigger. It's for one of these reasons. You see, the reform is not for the 3-tier scheme only. It was to, as we were, amalgamate all these schemes into one pension.
And bring sanity to them all.
Because if you are a public servant, by the fact that they call themselves pensionable officers. The two of us went to the same university. I don't know for what reason you are a pensionable officer, I'm not a pensionable officer. And then you don't contribute, I contribute. But when I go on pension, your pension is bigger than mine. So we needed to bring sanity into this. So that's the reason why the reforms are done. We have also asked that the payment of the CAP 30 should be decentralized because it doesn't really look good when somebody would have to travel all the way from Sunyani or somewhere to come to Accra looking for CAP 30 payment. So we are going to decentralize that.
Thank you very much. Sam Piale is the Chief Executive Officer of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority. We were joined on the line by Franklin Kojo, Executive Director of Imani Ghana, and Daniel Edu Mensah, who is a former CEO of MPRA and currently a pensions consultant. Thanks to you for sending in your messages and comments. We're grateful. And join us again tomorrow for another edition of PM Express. Good night.